Hey guys, this is Ben Richter with Rest Assured. I am the communications coordinator here, and I'm creating this video just to give you guys a more in-depth guide into remote supports and Rest Assured specific services. So without further ado, let's get started. So if you look here, you can see our agenda. It's kind of broken up into two major sections. There's general information about remote supports, including the history, challenges, varieties, that sort of thing. And then there's a bunch of Rest Assured specific information we'll be getting into if you want to know more about our services, our company, our philosophy in general. Oh, also, I want to make a note. Each of these sections, I will have a timestamp for those in the video description, the description underneath the video. So if you're looking for a specific piece of information and you don't want to watch the whole video, you can go into the description, click on that timestamp, and it will take you exactly to that part of the video so that you don't have to scrub through the whole thing trying to find what you're looking for. All right, so the creation of remote supports. Why were remote supports created? Well, originally they were created to address the shortage of direct care staff. And it was a combination of the improvement of technology and advancement in internet technology that basically allowed this to happen. And also, it wasn't just to make staff more efficient or to relieve the pressure on providers with the staff shortage. It was also created to promote greater independence among the people who wanted it. So where earlier the only alternative would be to have staff in the home, for individuals utilizing waiver services, they would only have the option to use staff in the home for any of the support they needed. They wanted to create an option where staff wasn't needed physically present in the home for them to still have that level of support. And so who does remote support serve generally? Generally speaking, remote supports serve people with disabilities and the aging population. So what are remote supports? We've seen a little bit about the history. We know why they were created. So what are remote supports? Well, remote supports, in a nutshell, it's internet-based caregiving. What does that mean? That means that a person, a caregiver, is delivering care through the internet to an individual in their home. We are basically able to use camera feeds and sensor feeds to direct caregiving done remotely. And then a lot of remote supports use remote caregivers to deliver care to the person served. And this is enshrined in a lot of states' regulations. There has to be a live person looking at the real-time footage or sensor data from that site. So it's about connecting a caregiver with an individual served through this technology and through the internet. Advances in technology make it such that the cameras and sensors can be placed in an individual's home and used by that remote caregiver to effectively deliver care to the individual served. So that is what remote supports is in a nutshell. It is internet-based caregiving. And the next question people might have is, why do people use remote supports? Well, from an individual's perspective, remote supports mean fewer hours of in-home staff, and that can translate to increased independence and a chance to take on more responsibility. Because without staff people physically present, the individual has to take up some extra responsibilities. You know, that's the flip side of independence, is increased risk and increased responsibility. And I think a lot of individuals do want that, do want the chance to try. And so incorporating remote supports gives the individual an opportunity to take on more responsibility and to self-direct their life in a more meaningful way. From the provider perspective, remote supports help alleviate the symptoms of the direct care staff shortage. So that means making each staff person stretch, being able to dedicate and allocate staff time to the homes that really need it, as opposed to people who could benefit from remote supports. And then they also see continued financial and service benefits of remote supports. So for example, if you're a provider agency who provides residential services and you show the prospective people that you are trying to serve that you have the ability and the relationships with remote support providers so that you can include that as a service offering, that makes you more appealing as a provider. typically remote support per hour rates are lower than per hour direct care staff rates. So that's part of why providers find remote supports appealing. So what are the challenges of remote supports? One thing I wanted to look at in this video is the central challenge of remote supports because it is a different system than in-person caregiving, and I wanted to highlight exactly how it is different. Well, it's kind of obvious. The main physical challenge, or the main challenge, is that we are physically distant. Because remote caregivers are physically distant, they are remote, there needs to be a way for staff to get to the home in case of an emergency or a situation where the individual needs physical assistance from a staff person. And that's where the concept of backup support comes in. Backup staff, backup support solves this issue. It basically means that there needs to be an established relationship between some sort of staff person or caregiver who can be contacted by the remote caregiver in situations where that's necessary. And we see that in the regulations of many of the different states in which we operate, is that they have adopted this concept of backup staff. And whether it's a paid staff person, say from a residential support provider, or if it's an unpaid person, like a guardian, family member, or close friend, a natural support, either way, they have a person who can go there and assist them if the situation were to arise. And so that is how the main challenge of remote supports is overcome, by creating this sort of backup staff situation. So in Rest Assured's case, there is never a situation in which an individual has remote supports but has no backup staff selected. In order to get remote supports from Rest Assured, there has to be someone listed as the backup contact for that individual. Okay, so we just talked about the central challenge of remote supports. So now let's talk about the different types of remote supports. So remote supports can be broken down, broadly speaking, into two distinct categories: hybrid and sensor-only systems. A hybrid system is a system that uses both cameras and sensors to deliver care and support. A sensor-only system, by contrast, is, like its name says, sensor-only. So it is only using sensors and no cameras to provide that support. So what are the main differences between these two categories of remote supports? So it boils down to what these different categories allow you to do. That's the difference between these two categories. It's not just about cameras and sensors, it's about what cameras allow you to do versus what sensors allow you to do. With a hybrid system, you can get active monitoring, which is a situation in which a caregiver is looking at a live video feed from the home, and they are able to make decisions and judgments about when to proactively engage with the individual to deliver care and support. And by contrast, a sensor-only system is relegated to reactive monitoring, which is where a caregiver is awaiting sensor information or input from the sensors in order to make decisions about giving care or delivering support. So to help illustrate the difference between active monitoring and reactive monitoring and the capabilities that they both have, I'm going to use an example. So say that there's an individual, Bob. Bob lives in a home, and Bob has cameras as well as sensors as part of his remote support system. So he is using a hybrid system, Bob. This means that he gets active monitoring. Bob is pacing around, pulling at his hair, maybe biting his fist. The telecaregiver can notice this and can proactively reach out and respond and say, hey, is everything okay? Because they can notice this. They're not relying on Bob to press the pendant to say, hey, I need someone to talk to. They have the ability to proactively reach out and engage with Bob. Now let's imagine another individual, Sue. Sue is in a home that's sensor only, so she has reactive monitoring. This means that in order for Sue to communicate with the caregiver on the other end of that system, Sue has to engage a sensor, whether that be a pendant, whether that be a button on a system, whether that be a button on a screen. Sue has to reach out to the caregiver in order to get the care or support that she may be needing. So Bob, with the active monitoring made possible by his hybrid system, doesn't have to reach out to contact the caregiver. And Sue, on the other hand, does have to reach out unless certain sensor thresholds are met. Hopefully that helps you understand the difference between hybrid and sensor-only systems and the active and reactive monitoring styles that those afford. And now you may be wondering, well, which one is better? Is active monitoring better? Is reactive monitoring better? There's no easy answer to that. If there's a camera in the home, then that feed gives more information to the caregiver. The caregiver can make decisions based on what is actually happening, apparent on the camera, what is live, the live feed of the home, as opposed to the more limited information that sensors give you. Say a door break. Door break says door is open. Door break says door is closed. In that situation, with only that information, it's hard to tell whether the individual actually left the home or whether they just opened it to check the weather or whether they just opened it to let someone in. So that's what the added benefit of the camera is. It just provides way more information and allows for more active monitoring. Now, reactive monitoring has its pros and cons as well. For individuals who value privacy or are opposed to a camera looking at them in their home, which is a few people, some people definitely feel that way. For those people, or people who are higher functioning, sensor-only systems may be the right choice. It all depends on the individual. There's no easy active monitoring is better, reactive monitoring is better. It depends on the needs of the individual, their desires, and what they want to achieve by using remote supports. So when you're taking a look at what sort of remote support system may be right for the individual you are concerned about, it's important to remember that the decision of whether to use active monitoring or reactive monitoring should be based on their needs and not any preconception of what is a quote-unquote better system to use. So this is a question we get asked a lot. How do I know if someone's right for remote supports? And it's a great question because it shows that you understand that not everybody is right for remote supports, just like not everybody is right for every support all the time. So who is right for remote supports? Well, some good fits are people who, first and foremost, people who self-determine that they want remote supports are some of the best fits. If you have a supportive and enthusiastic individual who is excited to have this change in staffing and to be able to have a little bit more independence, that is the best type of situation that we can look for as a remote support provider in terms of somebody that fits. Independent seekers are other good people who don't mind technology. These are the people who don't mind that, people who are okay with that. Those are the people who are good fits for remote supports in our experience. Now, as we acknowledged earlier, not everyone's a perfect fit. Some people are difficult fits for any number of reasons, and so here are a few. A difficult fit for remote supports might be someone who doesn't like technology in their home. If they're very particular about what's put in their home physically, then having a technology system in the home may be against what they want. It may be contrary to their desires, and in that way, it may not be a good fit. Another difficult fit are people who require regular, routine physical assistance. We have made it work with people who do require physical assistance, but typically we do that with the help of providers, staff, who rotate on a roving basis to be able to assist those individuals who need that routine physical assistance. If there is someone who absolutely, basically always needs staff present to be able to engage with their environment effectively, then they may not be right for remote supports during daytime hours, although they still might be right for sleeping hours. And then another example of a difficult fit or a person who could be a difficult fit is a person who could be fully independent. And we've seen that a few times at Rest Assured. Sometimes there's the case where an individual is right on that cusp of being completely independent and still needing help with maybe a couple things in their day-to-day life. And for those people who are very independent, remote supports may not be the right fit for them. And so here are some things to keep in mind. People's desires and abilities change over time. Someone who's not a good fit now could be a great fit in the future, and vice versa. We understand that people's lives aren't static. You're not one thing throughout your entire life. You don't have one set of desires throughout your entire life. You don't have one set of goals throughout your entire life. You are a changing person, and people with disabilities are the same way. So where preferences might change over time or openness to new types of services might change over time, it should be kept in mind that if you evaluate someone as not being right for remote supports, it may be worthwhile to check in with them in a year or 2 years and say, hey, has your perspective on this changed? Have your desires changed? Has this become a valid option for you? So that is a quick look at who is right for remote supports. Now we're going to move on to the rest assured specific portion of the video where we'll go into more detail about what we specifically do and who we are. So this right here is our beautiful leadership team. Up top, you have Tracy Brumball. She's the Director of Operations. Just beneath her, we have Bradley Nabholz, who is the Director of Strategy and Analytics. And then at the bottom, we have Derek Richter, who is our Director of IT. And these three people form the leadership team for Rest Assured. Next to Tracy up top there, we have Susan Lawley. She is the Operations Manager. Beneath her, we have Caden Parkhurst. He is the Operations Coordinator. And at the bottom, next to Derek, is Roger Cox, the Lead Technician. Susan, Caden, Roger, and myself together form the administrative team for Rest Assured. So who do we serve? Who does Rest Assured serve? We serve people with disabilities of all ages, people who are seeking independence, and that could be independence with anything. It could be medication, cooking safety, overnight supervision. Wherever they're looking for more independence, those are the people that we primarily serve. So what are our services? We've seen who we serve, so what do we provide them? Well, our primary service is active monitoring. Active monitoring is when a remote telecaregiver is actively supervising, providing support for an individual at a given site. So it is a live, awake person in real time watching camera feeds, sensor feeds to deliver that care on a real-time basis. Another service that we provide is sensor-based monitoring. And that is, as the name suggests, sensor only. So there's no camera at these sites. These are sites where the individual is maybe opposed to using a camera, or they're at a level of care where they don't really need a camera, and it's more of just a more high-level overview type situation. But there is still a live person who is delivering the care and responding to those sensor feeds. And then we have drop-in support. Drop-in support is more of a short burst of support that happens within a very small time frame. So what that would be is if an individual needed, say, medication administration assistance or oversight at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. and otherwise don't need monitoring, then what we would do is drop in on our audio-video system, and we could observe or support the individual as they self-administer those medications at those times. One thing to note is that drop-in support is not available as a reimbursable service in every state, so you will just have to check and see whether drop-in support is reimbursed by Medicaid in your state. And now we move on to our philosophy. So what is Rest Assured's philosophy? This is something I believe in pretty wholeheartedly. We are a people company, not a technology company. So what does that mean? Well, there are a lot of technology companies out there. You see new startups, you see newer companies using assistive technology, integrating that into their support, and that's all great. But the value that Rest Assured adds is not in the technology itself. It's not in the cameras. It's not in the sensors. Value we provide is that those sensors and cameras allow a real live, caring, compassionate person to deliver support remotely. So it's about the person-to-person caregiving and support and not about the individual pieces of technology. So while technology changes, it comes and goes, new things come into fashion and go out of fashion, what stays the same for Rest Assured are the people and the person-centered focus of our company. So we talked about the philosophy, the person-centered approach. So who are our caregivers? Who are the people providing the care at Rest Assured? Well, there's some great people, if I speak from personal experience, and we can talk about a few different aspects of their training and their characteristics. So first off, let's talk about their training. Every remote caregiver is trained on the specific needs and desires of each individual they serve. We have specific protocols that make up a care plan that is established for every single individual we serve. And the purpose of this is to make sure that whatever support we're delivering, it is actually a reflection of the person's desired outcomes, their wants, their needs, and what can help them moving forward and maintaining and achieving independence in their life. It's not a one-size-fits-all thing. We definitely have site-specific and person-specific trainings that are based around those specifics of the individual. But it's not just a one-time training that they get on each of these individuals. There are multiple parts to it. So one part is individualized service plans, or whatever they're called in your state. The plan of care for the individual served changes. The person's needs, wants, desires, goals, those all change. So we actually do regular updates on our training with our telecaregivers to ensure that they are delivering support based on a current and up-to-date care plan that reflects and is derived from precisely that person's current status. So we are dedicated to making sure that the remote supports that we provide reflect and are incorporated within the individual service plan for those individuals. And then in combination with that, this is a really exciting part and part of why I love Rest Assured the most, personally speaking. But they're really dedicated. They put the care in caregivers, and that's so cliche, but it's true. They're dedicated to providing quality care for the individuals they serve. And part of how that intersects with the training is that over time, our telecaregivers get to know the individuals they serve. They begin to understand their habits, their routines. They form relationships with these people. And that allows the care and the support that they give to reach levels that could not be reached in a technology-only service model. So for example, if you have an individual who is soft-spoken, doesn't speak out much, doesn't complain much, you could have a situation where a telecaregiver notices that they're behaving in a way that indicates that they are anxious, that they are depressed, that maybe they had a bad day, and telecaregivers have and do proactively reach out to those individuals. And that is something that systems that are purely technology-based just can't do because they do not have that aspect of care. And then, like I said, extensive training and a desire to deliver quality care forms the basis of a trusted relationship with the people served. And that's what we're about. We're about making sure that the individual served knows that these people are here to help, they're here when you need them, and they're doing what they can to make sure that you are supported when you are trying to live independently. So we've looked at our telecaregivers, the remote caregivers who provide the service to the individuals we serve. Now let's take a look at our process, what our process looks like, what the service that we provide actually looks like. So overall, I want to say that it is very person-centered. That's very important to Rest Assured, that our services that we provide are matched with the person, and we change to fit the person. We don't try to make the person change to fit the technology or to fit the service. So the first thing I want to highlight is the protocols that we develop, which form the care plan that is used to provide the service to the individual, are derived from the individualized service plan, or whatever it's called in your state. There's all kinds of names for it, but most people with disabilities, the services that they have are based off of this plan that is centered around their needs, their wants, their desires, what they are trying to achieve. And so our care plans, our protocols which make up our care plans, are all derived from the individual service plans that those teams with those service coordinators or case managers and all the stakeholders are a part of. So we really wanted to make it fit with that ISP and also be an extension of those goals and those desires outlined in the ISP. And then specific areas of care, a lot of people have questions about what actually remote supports can help an individual do. So some of the areas of care where remote supports really shine are kitchen safety, bathroom safety, visitor safety, vacation safety, meaning elopement, like that's another term for it, vacating the home, and then medication reminders and oversight. So those are just a few of the really bread and butter services that remote supports is well equipped to deliver. And then the last thing I want to stress about our process of person-centered care is, again, the integration. I know I sound like a broken record, but I just want to stress that the client protocols, interventions, and equipment used at an individual's home is all designed to fit the individual's specific needs and circumstances. We're not in the habit of over-technologizing an individual's home just because there's cool gear out there. We really want to make sure that what is put in the home, the types of interventions we're performing, and the protocols in place to deliver that care to the individual are all designed to fit the individual's specific needs and circumstances. So what does our equipment look like? So this is the tech we use to provide the care. For most sites, it starts with a smart box, which is a wooden cabinet. You can see it pictured here, and that handsome gentleman standing next to it is yours truly. I'm Ben Richter, the communications coordinator, like I said earlier, just rounding out the administrative team. It's about, I would say, 3 feet tall, and it's the housing for all the internal components. And on top of that smart box, you have a monitor that shows the weather during normal times, and then anytime the telecaregiver or the person served initiates a two-way audio-video call, that is where the telecaregiver's face appears. So it's like they're talking to the person right there. And there's a webcam on top of the monitor that allows the telecaregiver to see the individual as they're talking to the monitor. In addition to the smart box, we have the cameras. So we use pan-tilt zoom cameras, fixed cameras, and infrared cameras. We have the ability to use all those, and typically it depends on what is right for the individual and their particular situation that determines which type of camera we use. And then in addition to the cameras, we also have sensors. So those are door brake, motion detector, carbon monoxide, wearables like pendants, and smoke detectors, things of that nature. So those are basically used to help direct the attention and the care of the telecaregiver and prompt them to move the camera if they need to or take action with respect to providing support to the individual. So how do you get started with Rest Assured? Maybe you are interested in remote supports, maybe you know somebody who you feel like could benefit from remote supports, or maybe you yourself are someone who wants to use remote supports. Well, to start, you can reach out to Rest Assured and contact us via our website, or you can email us directly at info@restassuredsystem.com. And once you do that, the first step in our intake process is assessment. So that is basically asking questions about the individual who is going to be or would like to be served by Rest Assured, asking them questions to see if they're right for Rest Assured and whether we are an appropriate system given the individual's specific needs and situation. While Rest Assured is a great option for many, many people, it's important to remember that there's no single support that fits everybody's needs, and Rest Assured is no different. So it's important during this assessment that we take the time, ask the questions, and make sure that we are engaging in a partnership of sorts that is really going to work for the benefit of the individual. And then after the assessment, we move on to the intake, and that's the administrative process to begin designing protocols and billing the waiver, getting those authorizations, establishing location, individual surveys, just the administrative stuff that goes into actually getting you into our system and prepared to begin receiving services. Once this intake is finished, we move on to scheduling an installation time so we can actually physically put the system into the home. After the installation is completed, we move on to the introduction. And the introduction is a really important part of beginning services with Rest Assured. What is the introduction? The introduction is a meeting between the individual and our telecaregivers to confirm information and to welcome them. It's not just an administrative process. It also helps to acclimate people to talking with telecaregivers over the two-way audio video system, and just gets them used to knowing, these are real people on the other side of this technology in their home, these motion sensors, these cameras. There is another person on the other side of it, and all of that is to help them serve you, and that's the point of the introduction. And then after the introduction, we're ready to provide services. So the team or whoever is involved creates a monitoring schedule, and then we begin our regular monitoring or providing whatever service has been selected. And then after that, we just have a few ongoing processes that happen after introduction. So while services are being provided, if there's ever a reason that maintenance needs to happen, Rest Assured always provides free ongoing maintenance for our system in the home. And that is covered by the monthly equipment rental cost. So we sort of put all of our maintenance costs into that monthly fee so that you never have to worry about paying or authorizing for these maintenance costs on a separate basis. And then, like I mentioned earlier, there's always ongoing ISP integration. So as the individual service plan or the care plan for the individual changes, we update our protocols to reflect those changes to make sure the remote supports being provided are still reflecting exactly what the person's current needs, desires, circumstances are. So now I want to talk about something pretty cool. This is myRA, My Rest Assured. It is our online portal. So this is basically a really helpful feature that allows third parties or other interested people, involved people. A lot of times it's people from the individual's residential provider agency or family, like parents or guardians. And what this online portal does is it has several different features, and I'll sort of go through them. So first, we have the live two-way video chat. So with our system in the home, individuals, if they have a webcam set up, can use myRA, say like a mother, could use myRA to initiate a two-way video chat, much like Skype, and go over our system and talk to the individual in the home. And this could be the same with, a provider or whoever has the permission, the access to use myRA for that site. And then it also gives administrative access. So myRA enables approved users to alter the monitoring schedule, prompt and reminder times, and it allows them to change protocols for the individuals they serve. So it gives you a lot of options to go in there and make changes as opposed to calling the hub and asking for those changes to be made. It lets you get directly into the space where you can make administrative changes to alter that care in the most efficient way possible. To start using myRA, all you have to do is contact Tracy Brumball at tbrumball@restassuredsystem.com. It's right here like you see it. If you email her, she can send you the form to set up the permissions, and you will have access soon. Hey, we made it. Thank you guys very much. I hope that this was informative. I hope that you learned something about remote supports generally or Rest Assured specifically. Yeah, so thank you very much again. And if you would like to reach out to us for any reason, for an inquiry, for a question, for a comment, or to start the process of getting someone started with Rest Assured, you can reach out to us at info@restassuredsystem.com, this email address right here, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Thank you very much, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.